In this video, I'm gonna share with you the best foods to eat after cancer. Whether you've just been diagnosed, you're in treatment, or if you're doing everything you can to prevent a cancer recurrence, there are clear guidelines that show us exactly what we need to be eating as cancer survivors. The advice to just eat whatever you want simply doesn't work anymore because we now have clear evidence that shows which foods cause and which foods cure. For example, this JAMA study shows that vitamin D can actually reduce the risk of advanced cancer. Or this study shows that eating foods that are high in vitamin C can actually prevent breast cancer. There's no longer a question about whether food has an impact on a cancer diagnosis, it just simply does. But there's a lot of debate online about how people should eat after a cancer diagnosis. Many cancer survivors I work with come to me frustrated and ready to give up because there's so much conflicting information online. You don't have to look far to see a bunch of different diets claiming to be the best for cancer survivors. The keto diet, intermittent fasting, the alkaline diet, and eating vegetarian. But what is the right path for you? What's the truth? After I finished cancer treatment, I wanted to make sure I did absolutely everything I could to never have to go through that again. The fear surrounding cancer is really severe. You want to make sure that you do not have to endure that uncertainty again. But even with a doctorate in cancer care, I was uncertain about what nutritional approach to take. But by using my research skills, my knowledge, and a network of cancer experts around me, I was able to dive into the scientific literature around food and really identify a single strategy that's known to reduce your risk of a cancer recurrence. Let me show you exactly what you need to know because there is a clear path that has been proven over and over again. Food absolutely makes a difference in your risk of cancer and cancer recurrence. We know that about 5% of cancers are caused by the genetics that we're just born with. They're the genetics we have absolutely no control over. They're simply passed down from our parents, and it simply is what it is. But we also know that about 95% of cancers are actually caused by mutations to our DNA that happen over the course of our lifetime. Environmental exposures, nutrition, exercise, things that we actually have some control over. But the most interesting part is that we know the #1 cause of mutations to our DNA is actually from our food. While environmental factors do play a role in your risk of cancer, your food actually plays the biggest role. Many cancer survivors that come to me for support through the Cancer Freedom Program are worried about skincare products or cleaning products in their household. While this may play a role in your risk of cancer, the bigger concern is how you're fueling your body with food. So it makes sense that you focus on how you can reduce your risk of a cancer recurrence through your nutrition because it's actually your food that's gonna make the biggest impact. It's so well established that nutrition plays a role in your risk of cancer, but there are still many well-meaning professionals that say, just eat whatever you want. Now, of course, there's time constraints at your doctor's office. They need to see several patients through their office in the course of a day. We also really need your oncologist to be brilliant at treating or controlling your cancer. So eventually you can get to a point where you're cancer-free. So it's understandable that maybe nutrition isn't the primary focus of your appointment with your oncologist. But it's dismissive to say that nutrition doesn't play a role because the evidence is clear. It does. Over the last several years, the evidence has become really clear in terms of nutrition and cancer. So to say food doesn't really matter, just eat whatever you want, this is no longer adequate in terms of supporting cancer survivors. But what exact foods should you be eating as a cancer survivor? Well, the literature is quite clear on this as well. There's no single magical food that's gonna make a difference in terms of reducing your risk of cancer. What does make a difference is a combination of foods to include and a combination of foods to avoid. Let me show you how to do this. There are a combination of foods that are recommended by several leading organizations in cancer prevention. Organizations like the American Cancer Institute or the American Cancer Society. There are a specific combination of foods that have been shown to reduce your risk of a cancer recurrence. Here, the American Cancer Society shows to eat more vegetables, fruits, beans, and whole grains. They also suggest limiting a combination of foods, red or processed meats, sugary drinks, highly processed foods, and alcohol. Those exact same recommendations can be seen here with the American Cancer Institute. Eat more vegetables, fruits, beans, and whole grains. Eat less red or processed meat, processed foods, alcohol and sugary beverages. Now, there are a lot of diets that claim to be the best approach for people diagnosed with cancer. So let's see how these popular diets compare to the evidence that have clearly shown to reduce your risk of a cancer recurrence. The alkaline diet actually shows to increase your vegetables and fruits, but to also lower your meat and sugar consumptions. So it actually aligns pretty well. However, the validity around controlling your body's pH through food and therefore lowering your risk of cancer has really yet to be proven. The keto diet just doesn't align very well at all. It suggests to increase your meat consumption, it doesn't place a large focus on vegetables, and actually suggests that you avoid fruit altogether. But it does suggest to limit refined grains, sugary drinks, and alcohol. The macrobiotic diet actually aligns quite closely. It focuses on a plant-based diet, vegetables, whole grains, and beans. The paleo diet is similar to the keto diet with just too much meat. The vegan diet has potential to be good, but it just doesn't offer enough in terms of limiting alcohol, sugary drinks, and processed grains. There's still a lot of potential here to eat highly processed vegan junk food. But look, these are all fad diets, meaning that they come and go with popularity. You don't have to follow any of these diets. You've now seen it's far more evidence-based to just include more vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and to limit your red and processed meats, sugary drinks, processed foods, and alcohol. Okay, but you probably heard before that you should eat more vegetables. So why is it so hard to actually get this done? And how can you actually make a change in your nutrition? This is an important piece, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do just that. There is truly no downside in terms of eating a diet that's higher in vegetables, fruits, whole grains. Many cancer survivors are understandably focused on lowering their risk of their cancer from coming back. You now know the approach on how to do just that, but there's another upside. This nutritional approach actually limits other life-threatening conditions. When we specifically look at breast cancer survivors, we know the most common reason why these women die is not from breast cancer, it's actually from cardiovascular disease. It narrowly beats out breast cancer in the #1 cause of death in breast cancer survivors. This has been shown in over 60,000 breast cancer survivors. So while we absolutely want to lower your risk of breast cancer, we also want to lower your risk of cardiovascular disease, things like heart attacks and stroke. So this approach to eating could actually save your life in terms of a cancer recurrence, but it could also save your life because of something else. Okay, so how do you actually get this done? It's so easy to say, just eat more vegetable, but the challenging part is doing it. These small changes can make a huge impact in terms of reducing your risk of cancer. Here are 5 ways to get more veggies into your diet. The biggest change you can make to the amount of vegetables in your nutrition is to change how you structure your meal. Many people will understandably create a meal with protein, starch, and vegetable, like chicken, rice, and beans, or pork tenderloin, broccoli, and mashed potatoes. Instead of just sticking to one vegetable at each meal, I want you to now include 2 vegetables at every single meal. In my house, at every meal, I make a vegetable. So, for example, green beans. But I also make a salad. There's always a salad on the menu. That way, when you're naturally dishing up your plate, more of your plate is gonna be plant-based because there's just more options. So keep it simple. Include a side salad at every single meal. But what arguably makes the biggest difference in terms of increasing the amount of vegetables you're eating is to change your mindset around food. We're often taught to think about food as things we should be avoiding. Don't eat too many sweets and make sure not to eat too much, period. More attention is focused on the foods you should avoid rather than the foods you should include. And that is the biggest problem. Instead of focusing on your food as things you need to avoid or limit, I want you to focus on food you should include. Every single meal is an opportunity to eat more vegetables and lower your risk of cancer. Shifting your mindset around food is actually shifting the power. You are now in control of guiding your future by shifting your food. But I think here is where a lot of people actually get hung up in terms of adding more vegetables to their diet. A lot of people struggle with what is the right kind of vegetable to add. Frozen, fresh, canned? Can you do all of these options? Are they okay? The truth is that you just need to include more. Yes, it would be great to eat fresh vegetables all the time, but life gets busy and that is okay. The point is to increase your vegetables. Period. That might mean including mostly fresh vegetables, but also frozen and canned when groceries run low or you're out of food. Don't fall into the common mistake of being hung up on these small choices. First, Focus on how to simply increase the amount. That actually leads me to the fourth way to increase your vegetables. Include one snack each day that's veggie focused. Hummus and carrots or edamame beans that have been crisped up in the air fryer. Replace one of your daily snacks with something that's vegetable forward. And number 5 is to focus one meal per week on being vegetarian, where a plant-based food is actually the star of the dish. For me personally, I am not a great cook, so I get help in this area. I use a local meal service to get a vegetarian meal delivered straight to my door once a week. It's simple, strategic, and a tasty way to make sure you're getting more vegetables in your diet. Okay, so we know nutrition is an effective way to lower your risk of a cancer recurrence, but using target exercise, you can actually lower your risk of a cancer recurrence by 59%. That's exactly why I'm linking up this next video here on how to stop cancer from coming back through movement. Get started here. I'll see you in the next video.